The following program is brought to you by Fan-Bagged Cornhole, Chicago's official supplier of professional cornhole boards and bags. Choose from any of their officially licensed designs or have my boy Brian design a custom set using anything from a selfie to your company logo. Visit www.fanbagscornhole.com and use the promo code BRAGS to get 10% off your entire order. That's www.fanbagscornhole.com and use promo code BRAGS for 10% off. Step up your game with Fan-Bags Cornhole.
It's Zach Eady with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands. I am your host, Joe Jackson. Joining me is Kraig Bowers as we preview the national championship game between Purdue and UConn, the two best teams in the country all season long. And this is what the championship game should be: two heavyweight powerhouses just going at each other, and you kind of we'll talk about maybe a little bit of the pressers and stuff, but lots of respect. It seemed both ways in terms of Purdue and UConn, and understanding that this is the best team that both of them will have played all season long. This should be a very, very fun game. We'll dive into some of the matchups and the X's and O's and some key points, different things like that. But before we do, I want to throw it to you, Kraig. How are you feeling that our Purdue Boilermakers are one win away from a national championship?
Yeah, it's kind of surreal, isn't it? I mean, just still trying to wrap my head around it and think about the fact that there's still business left to do, right? But regardless of what happens tomorrow night, just amazing that this team has made it this far, that's made it to a national championship game, that me and you get to walk out down the side of that court to our media seats at a national championship game. Just really, really excited. I know tons of Boiler fans went pretty hard last night. From my text messages from everybody around here, it sounds like people are kind of taking it a little low key tonight in the Phoenix area because everybody was partying pretty late and pretty hard. If any of you guys got to go down to the Deuce and watch Bruce, the Piano Man, tons and tons and tons of Boilers there, just celebrating, feeling good about the fact that Purdue's going to that national championship game after a 40 or since 1969. I'm not going to do the math in my head right now.
55.
I was going to the final. Yeah, I was going to the Final Four. I was thinking of the 1980 year, and then I remembered it was 1969.
Yeah.
And I froze up on the math.
55 years. And we are here. Speaking of parties, we'll throw this up now. We'll probably throw it up later. This is the QR code for anybody that is in the Phoenix, Glensdale area. This is, I'm sure it was on Twitter and stuff, but you probably know both the bars. Carousel and what's the other bar?
I think it's Bodega, right?
Bodega. Anyways, both two bars, right? 5-6 minute walk from the stadium. You can use this QR code, sign up. $20 per person is the cover charge, and based off of just the first one for the Final Four at just the one carousel, it was packed. There was a ton of people there. It was great to see a lot of you there. So if you want to sign up for that, scan this QR code up on the screen right now. Then you can use that. And like we said, there's going to be two bars, fully Purdue bars. And just doors open, I believe, at 10 a.m. is what was said. I probably should have checked fact check this before talking about it, but we're rolling here. 10 a.m. tomorrow. Get ready for the game. Use this QR code. Like I said, 2 bars. It was absolutely packed for the first one. So this should be another fun time. I don't know who all will be there this time, but I know this past one, Dave Shondell was there. In terms of basketball players, Ryan Klein, Grady Eifert, Ryan Smith, Dakota Mathias. I think those were the big 4 that showed up. We will be there. Me and Kraig will be there for some period of time. Braggs will be there for probably a longer period of time. But should be a fun time. It was fun meeting up with a few of you that were able to show up. So we'll throw that up again. Probably I'll throw it up again now. I'll throw it up again later. But use the QR code, sign up, and come hang out with some Boiler Ball fans before the big game. So do you have anything you want to add to that, or you want to get into the game?
Yeah, Carousel did a great job. It was packed in there. So there was space was a little bit limited and trying to move around. So they made the decision to open it up to 2 different locations for tomorrow. So I think there's going to be, for those of you guys that were there, I know a couple people that bought tickets but then moved on because they needed a table to sit at to try to get some food. I don't think that's going to be as much of an issue tomorrow. I don't hope so anyway, because we do have 2 locations now. So the seating will be double or more than what it was this last time around. Pre-register, sign up now, get your spot locked in, and we will see you guys tomorrow. And who knows who will stop by this next go around. It wouldn't surprise me at all if we had some more famous faces in the crowd tomorrow.
Yes, I am working right now on getting the actual. Somebody asked if we could post the physical link in the comments. I am working on that really, really quick, and that'll be there in just a sec. But then QR code, like we said, we'll throw that back up later. Should be a fun time. And so yeah, let's get into this game now. I did just now post the actual link in the description or in the comment section. I mean, so you guys can do that as well and sign up. UConn Purdue. UConn, I think it's like a 6.5 point favorite. And that's just by the betting spreads and all of that. I know national media is definitely very, very heavy leaning UConn. I get it to a degree. I do think Purdue has a legit chance in this game, though. Like I've kind of said all along, Purdue is the one team in my mind that had a if both teams were going to play close to normal, Purdue was the only team I thought in the country that had a realistic chance of beating UConn. And it kind of goes the other way too, where not too many teams had a realistic chance of beating Purdue if both teams played normal. Where do you want to start with this? Do you want to start more kind of the narrative and big picture? Do you want to dive into matchups?
I think we need to start a little bit big picture, and I'm with you. Somebody said to me earlier today, like Purdue's going to have to play a perfect game to beat UConn. And I said, well, because they said basically everybody's had to. And I said, well, nobody's beat Purdue without playing a perfect game, basically, other than maybe the Big Ten game. But me and you had our own opinions about the Big Ten tournament game in terms of what was happening there. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it's 2 teams who both have only really been beat this year when another team either goes stupid crazy from 3, like Creighton against UConn, Nebraska against Purdue, or maybe some freaky things happen during that specific game. I think about the Ohio State game where they just lose their coach, get a new coach, you get that first game bump and all that kind of crazy stuff that goes with it. And Ohio State played an excellent game against Purdue, and then Boo Booey went in the Boo Booey zone the one time that we played them. So, some pretty, I guess, special efforts by the team to beat Purdue. Obviously, UConn's going to come out and be locked in, but we also know, UConn's not perfect. They've had some games where they've struggled shooting from outside, and if they have a game like that, they're not going to be able to just toss it to Klingon and have Klingon get his points easily with the 7'4" Zach Edey National Player of the Year down low. So I by no means buy into this narrative whatsoever. Do I think UConn should be favored on the betting line? Probably a little bit, but 6.5 seems like a lot to me. The national narrative that seems to not give Purdue any chance in this game is just wild to me.
Yeah, and anybody that's listened knows I've said UConn's the best team in the country. I said that coming into the tournament. I still believe that right now, but it's not this gigantic gap. I think there is a much, much larger gap between Purdue and whoever's the 3rd best team in the country than UConn and Purdue. And kind of in my head it's how it's been. And there are countless paths for Purdue winning, and one of them probably starts with, hey, Purdue has the best player in the country, and his name is Zach Edey. Clingan is very good, and that's probably the first matchup we should start with. 7'2" Donovan Clingan for UConn. They go about their business really in different ways. Clingan is a guy that he's just so good in space in terms of eating up space, deterring shots at the rim, being able to rim run, being able to run, rolls. He's not really going to be a post up guy. Like he'll get his post touches. He's not going to try to post up Edey too much. Obviously, Edey is going to post up Clingan a ton. I assume UConn stays single coverage just from everything I've watched, and you can. My scouting report on Feed the Post is also out where I break it down a little bit more on the film of it. But like, I don't know. To me, I know I've talked to you obviously off air with it, but it's just like over the past day, it's been like, hey, if Clingan's gonna stay one-on-one with Edey, like Edey just kind of has to dominate that matchup if Purdue wants to win. It feels like.
Yeah, I'm with you there, and I do think now funky things happen, right, in national championship games, and we've seen people really unexpected have monster games that have kind of been the deciding factors. But I think as we approach this game, it certainly looks like a situation where Zach needs to have that kind of National Player of the Year statement game. I don't know that he needs to go get 40. I think we saw National Player of the Year on the women's side maybe try to do a little bit too much in that championship matchup. And, you definitely don't want that to the point where he's forcing. But he's going to have to come out and have a good game, a big game, and a clean game. I think he's got to cut down on the turnovers that he had the other day. But if he comes out and gets 30 and 15 like he normally does, if we're being honest, that's just kind of a pretty solid Zach Edey effort. Then I think Purdue has a really good shot. Obviously, the guard matchup and how UConn's going to pressure the guards, how the guards handle that pressure is going to be a big deciding factor in this game as well. And I know we're going to dive into what we think is going to happen at the 4 spot, because UConn's 4 is just a much different type of 4 than TKR. And we'll get into that in a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and talk about that a little bit right now? Because Caravan is, right, more of a non-traditional 4. TKR is very much a traditional kind of bigger body post-up 4. And to me, a lot of this game, I don't think it's even the first or second most important thing in this game, but I do think some of this game is going to be decided by who wins that matchup when those two are on the floor against each other.
Yeah, so he's talking about Alex Caravan, 6'8", kind of wing. He's a really, really good shooter, 38.5% on 208 attempts per the season. Kind of imagine he's closer to like a Gillis if Gillis had an expanded role and also moved a little bit better. He's able to come off screens. He's able to cut well. He's able to get to the rim. But more importantly than anything, he can just shoot the leather off the ball. He just straight up can. And UConn's offense is so polished, just like Purdue's. They run their stuff and it gets people open. But now, like you said, you have TKR who's going to play 15, 20 minutes a game. This game, TKR has the size advantage, and he is going to post up Caravan, and there's the possibility that he could get maybe even Caravan in some foul trouble early. Although Caravan is not a dude that fouls a ton, he usually doesn't have to guard those big post up guys like TKR. And so I'll be interested if they go to him early, like, do they just kind of feed the ball down low, see what UConn is wanting to do against post defense, get a feel that way, let TKR go to work. Maybe he draws a foul along the way and then goes up. Now on the other side, I haven't talked to you about this, but my thinking has flipped in the past since however long since we've talked. I don't know if TKR takes Caravan.
No, I'm with you. I was actually when Dustin gave me a ride home, or Dustin or Dylan from Sports Illustrated. I don't know. I forget his names. That's terrible. He gave me a ride home. Really nice guy from the stadium. And on the way back, we were talking through some stuff, and that thought actually popped into my head too. If they do a little cross match between the 4 and the 3 spot, I think that's where you're going with that. But go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say I think TKR is going to take Castle.
Yeah, me too.
And Castle, he knocked down 2 threes, and Castle had like a phenomenal game against Bama, and no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It might have been his best. It might have been literally his best game of the season. And so if that happens, he was 2 for 6 from 3. That's the first time he made more than 1 3 in a game since March 9th. He's only made more than 1 3 in a game 1, 2, 3, 4. That was his 5th time all season. He is a guy that can drive, though. He can get downhill. He can get to the rim. And so I do think, and we've kind of came to the same conclusion, not even talking about it together, is like TKR is probably just going to take Castle and he's going to play off and he's going to dare him to be a shooter, and is my guess. And I don't know, I guess if you agree with that part or not, but it's just like, if he knocks down some threes, then you adjust from there. And honestly, if he knocks down some threes, it's probably just going to become Gillis and just going to be Gillis's minutes the rest of the way. But then that gives you the capability of throwing it to TKR down low on offense, and then on defense, you're not, because the nightmare is TKR just having to run around off-ball screens to try to stay on Caravan, and that just, I can't think of a scenario where that works out too well other than Caravan missing open threes. And so it's still not like a great resolve, because then that means Fletch is probably going to take Caravan. Or you think Braden does? Probably Fletch, right?
Probably Fletch, yeah.
Yeah. And so then Caravan has some height advantage, but he's not going to like post up really. He's more of a cutter. And so Fletch will have to be aware, and this will be the theme for everybody, is off ball. You have to be aware. You have to know where the ball is. You have to know where your man is. You have to know where screens can come from. Purdue runs a lot of sets. UConn probably runs more sets and more complex sets than Purdue. They're probably the only team in the country I would be willing to say that does it more than Purdue, but they do. They will run constant pin downs. They will run constant stagger screens. They will run these baseline cuts or slipping out of backdoor cuts or just anything. And so you have to be off ball aware, but sticking with the 4 matchup specifically, yeah, I'm with you. TKR, I think, takes Castle, turns him into a shooter, and then you have Fletch and Braden flying around on Caravan and Spencer. Matthew Keller says, what about Heidi on Caravan?
When he's in, that wouldn't surprise me at all, right? Or
who would? And then Gillis takes Castle?
Yeah. Or, I mean, either way. I mean, Gillis could take, yeah.
It depends on the rotation, because if Heidi's in for Jones, Heidi probably takes Newton. I don't know. I guess it's what you view also of what Tristan Newton is. And we're kind of jumping now, but Tristan Newton's a 6'5" point guard, and he like Tristan Newton was he was AP All First Team, I think, right? All America. If he wasn't, he should have been. There is legit argument that he was the second best player in the country this season. I don't know if I would agree, but top 5. And so he's this 6'5" point guard that he's going to facilitate. And so it's how do you view him? Do you view him as kind of the head of the snake of he sets everything up? And so, okay, we want to try to make life as hard as possible on him. Or is it everybody else is very good at cutting and moving off ball? We want to try to take those away and just make Newton score. And so if that's the scenario, then I do see Heidi more on Caravan of just being able to match the size and the movement. And then you throw, if it's Braden and Fletch, then you throw Braden on Tristan Newton and Fletch on Cam Spencer type thing, and Gillis on Castle. But if you view Newton as like this, he's the guy that runs everything for this UConn offense. He needs to be stopped. That's where I would see Heidi taking him when in for Jones. And then from there, you just kind of deal with the running around screens. Now, if Jones and Heidi are both in, then yes. That was a very, very, very long-winded answer to say maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, I don't think the answers are as clear-cut as some of the other games where we correctly called some like a little bit different defensive matchups before the game, because UConn kind of has weapons at all 5 spots. So it's not as easy as, okay, well, we don't have to worry a ton about this guy, so we think we'll protect Zach by doing this, or protect Fletch by doing this on certain matchups. So I think it's just a little bit more difficult to gauge this one. I am totally with you on the TKR thing in terms of thinking that's the way it might go. But it's going to be really interesting to see what Painter and Terry Johnson draw up defensively for this game. And I'm betting after like how they started the North Carolina State game and the fact that just didn't really work at all, that they don't try to get too overly cute from the defensive assignment side of things. But certainly I think there's going to be some matchups there. What?
I didn't even think of that possibility of you throw TKR and Klingon and then put Edie on Castle. I don't think. I think I'm more confident in what we talked about before with TKR and Castle, but now it's got me thinking. I will be considering that now late into the night. Let's move on to.
Well, I was talking more about the Braden Smith, Lance Jones from the defensive side in terms of what they did there.
Gotcha. Let's go to Braden Smith. Braden Smith, I don't think he guards Tristan Newton, so we can kind of we'll probably just be all over the place in terms of going back and forth on these guards. Braden Smith, Lance Jones, Fletcher Loyer is kind of the backcourt for Purdue. Tristan Newton, Stephon Castle, Cam Spencer is the backcourt for UConn. We talked a little bit about Castle already. Not really a shooter at all. Fairly good driver and a really, really good defender. I assume he takes Braden, and that's who they'll put on him and just try to make life as tough as possible. Spencer probably takes Loyer. Newton probably takes Jones. Those could be switched. I wouldn't be shocked. Also, the other thing is, and I don't know if Purdue will ever get into this, but UConn will switch guard to guard everything, is what they've shown in the past. So, like, I don't know if Purdue tries to get that and just be like, Cam Spencer, come here. But this has to be, Braden Smith has to play. Braden Smith has to be better than the Final Four game, but like, this needs to be like a good Braden Smith game. And I think the opportunities are there. As good as Klingon is, he's going to be more in drop coverage. Like, those pull-ups should be there. UConn doesn't provide an insane amount of help off of like the wings and shooters. They're going to be fine with Braden kind of getting into that mid-range area. I asked Braden about it a little bit at the presser. It was just like, you have this experience of going up against a 7-foot, 4 dude in terms of ED in practice against this drop coverage. And it's just like, just being able to, he's going to, he said he's going to do what he does. They're not going to like change their philosophies or anything just because Klingon's a good defender. But he knows he's got to be on point. The mid-range shot should be there. You're going to need him to fall. And that's going to be an important thing, is what can Braden do against this defense, because it is a good defense, number 4 in the country per KenPom, but at the same time, Purdue's offense is where they are in large part because Braden Smith has been phenomenal this year.
Yeah, no doubt. And yeah, we need that Braden Smith that's confident and hitting that mid-range pull-up or that 15-footer that he likes to pull up and take. And because I think offensively, obviously, we need Zach to have a big game. We need wings to hit down open threes. We need Mason and Lance and Fletcher to knock down those open threes like they did the other night when Zach does have the opportunity to kick out if a guard does dig down a little bit. But I think a lot of it's going to be what Braden can do off of just high ball screen action. And certainly, I think for Purdue to have a chance in this game, he's got to be hitting that 15-footer. I don't think he's obviously going to get all the way to the rim in this matchup like we've seen in some other ones very often. But because even when UConn's backup big comes in, not near the weight and mass that you see in Klingon, but really, really athletic big man that can shot block at a high level also. So I think it's going to be one of those games where Purdue has to hit tough shots. And I guess what we call tough shots, what Painter calls tough shots in terms of what he tries to force other teams into, are more of those mid-range shots. So I think guys are going to have to do it. We saw Lance pull up and knock down a mid-range in the middle of the lane in that Final Four game. Lance looks like his shooting is good to go in that stadium environment. So, hopefully both of those guards, Fletcher too, can get to that mid-range and do it. So I think that's going to be big, that they may not get as high quality shots as what they normally do. And they're just going to have to be big time shot makers when they do get an open look.
Yeah. And this is just, when you get to this magnitude of a game, that you just have to make big time plays. Like, somebody has to. I think Edey will be, but like I've said it all year, the formula for Purdue is Edey plus Smith having a good game plus one other perimeter guy. Lance and Fletch both kind of looked up to the task in terms of that against NC State. Like Purdue was an average Braden Smith game away from that being a 25-point game. Like, even just an okay Braden Smith game, and not even close in the second half.
Right.
But yeah, he's got to be better. He knows that. Everybody knows that. We all still have the confidence in him and expect him to bounce back. This is where we're going to see that underdog Braden Smith, that chip on his shoulder. Like, this is kind of the stuff he's built for. This is what he's been through for a large chunk of his life. Like, in terms of playing basketball, he's not used to this at all. Like, he's been around in these types of spots against bigger guards, in spots where it seemed like he shouldn't be able to hold up. But It's what he do. He's a winner. It's what he is. And I truly expect him to have at least a solid game at minimum. Maybe he is. Maybe it isn't the 20-point near triple double Braden Smith, but I do think it's going to be at least a solid game. Who do you think he guards? I know that's kind of been the chat right now. Is like the matchups, but like who do you think he takes? Because I think he takes Spencer.
And Lance takes Newton.
Yeah. But if those two were flipped, I wouldn't be like shocked, I guess. But it goes back to how Purdue just views them is kind of what it is. It was the same thing with Connect and Ziegler. Purdue viewed Ziegler as like the engine that pushes everything at first. So they put Lance on him. Obviously it didn't work. And then they switched out of it. But I don't know how they view Newton and Spencer comparatively.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked at all if Smith guards Newton, and they leave Braden on Spencer just to try to keep Cam from getting going. Because once Cam gets going, that basket looks like an ocean to him from a shooter standpoint, and just so elite, so crafty in the way that he gets his shots. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Lance starts on him, but it wouldn't surprise me at all either if Painter's like, no, we're gonna create, try to shut down the head of the snake that runs the offense and try to shut down Newton with Lance and just be physical with Newton up top. But it'll be interesting to me. I'm less confident about our takes in what they decide to do matchup wise defensively than I've probably been all year going into a game.
And the other thing is matchups are matchups until like they just can't be, in terms of, I know UConn doesn't their pace is slow because when they run a set, it's going to take 15 seconds to get to their endpoint, but like they will push the ball. They're about, they're about top third in terms of getting their points via transition in the country. They will push the ball. And then they also, like I've mentioned, they run so much off ball stuff that like right now we're debating whether Newton or Smith or Jones is on Newton. Well, like what happens if Newton sets a down screen for Spencer? Is that just a switch? Are they fighting through that? Because that's the other thing then is like at the end of the day, you have your set matchups, but what is happening off ball? What's happening on ball? Do they bring whoever Fletch is guarding? Do they say, hey, come up here and set the screen for me? And is that now a switch for Purdue in the guards? Is it going to be Fletcher Lawyer hedging and getting back? I don't know if you can do that against these types of shooters. So there's that whole aspect too of like, yes, Purdue will have their set matchups who they want, but that can go by the wayside pretty quick, whether it be transition, which means Purdue needs to make buckets, so UConn can't do that, or just switching or not switching off ball. This is going to be a very fun chess match, I think, for both sides, because right now we are focusing on the defensive side for Purdue versus UConn's offense, rightfully so, and a little bit we'll kind of flip that because it's not like UConn has like the easiest time always in terms of, or the easiest matchups, because hey, Purdue's also insanely good offensively. But that's kind of my take. Is like I think Jones takes Newton, I think Smith takes Spencer, I think Lawyer takes Caravan, but I also assume they're just going to switch stuff, and so it's not going to matter too much.
Yeah. Do you think there's opportunity for Purdue to get out and push and run in this game at the same time, though?
Yeah, definitely. Whether it be, especially, I know Klingon moves well, but any chance that you have in transition where Klingon isn't stationed at the rim, that's a chance you kind of got to take. Edey's going to get a lot of shots near the rim because he's Zach Edey, but off of long misses or stuff like that from UConn, absolutely. Let's see, I don't think UConn's like. UConn is a good rebounding team. They're a very good offensive rebounding team. They're a solid defensive rebounding team. They're similar makeup to. They really are a similar makeup to Purdue. They don't turn the ball over. They don't force a ton of turnovers. They rebound the ball well. They shoot the ball pretty well. They defend interior really well. Only difference is Purdue draws a ton of fouls and doesn't foul a lot. UConn's about average in both of those. That's going to be one. That's the only like key kind of stylistic difference between the two. When you're just looking at pure raw numbers, in my opinion. But yeah, no, Purdue should be able to run some and get some easier looks when Klingon isn't stationed down there. Even like Johnson, their backup Samson Johnson, he is a very athletic big, a very athletic big, and can protect the rim. But it's just it's a different feel than Klingon.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Where do you think offensively, as we look at this matchup specifically, I guess where do you see the easiest way for Purdue to get points outside of Edey post moves?
That's a good question. I wouldn't hate kind of running this off ball like not off ball, but like the pin downs for Lawyer and stuff like that, where it's kind of because I'm thinking Spencer takes him, so trying to draw him into action some seems like probably the best bet. Whereas and then especially if it is Klingon, Lawyer's going to have, you kind of already mentioned this. Lawyer's going to have kind of that room in the mid range. Jones will too. Uh, excuse me. Both of those should be pretty good ways, I think. Trying to pull up their exact numbers right here, and now I finally have them pulled up. Yeah, and like the other thing that's going to be interesting is the 3-point battle. UConn doesn't give up a ton of threes, and they're about average in term. They force a lot of jumpers, so they close out hard and they make you put the ball on the ground. Whereas Purdue's insanely good at generating open looks and generating open threes. So the other thing is just going to be having good ball movement. Like, can the ball just skip across the court quickly, or 1-2 extra passes and swing to an open shooter? Because especially if you can, it's easier said than done, but like if you can get into the lane, draw Klingon up a little bit, they're going to have to send help backside to Edey, and that's where the advantages can be. And that's where I think it can be a big Brain Smith game in terms of if he can be that engine that gets downhill, which I think he can be. Then you can kind of spray the ball out. You need guys to knock down shots. That was not a problem yesterday, except for really Braden Smith from the perimeter. Unless I'm misremembering, but like,
no,
Lance was 4 of 9. Fletch was 3 of 5. Gillis was 2 of 3 from 3.
I think he ended up 2 of 4 yesterday.
2 of 4.
Then 2 of 5. No, he took 5. 2 of 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you take that still.
Yeah, for sure. 40% team shot 40% from 3. Everybody was worried. One of the most common questions before that first matchup was, how did Purdue adjust to the sight lines of the stadium and playing without that normal backdrop they would play against? And by and large, it didn't really look like it impacted anybody, other than, maybe it impacted Smith a little bit because obviously he didn't have a great shooting night. But it'll be interesting to me. And I think obviously we have to have Smith do that. And we talked that TKR matchup from, kind of the UConn side and what Purdue would have to do with the 4-man defensively. But I also think there's just a ton of opportunity. And we've seen Painter do this many, many times when we're facing a team with a smaller 4. And the fact that big man has to go guard Zach Edey, is that Painter's just abused that 4 spot with TKR and just fed him 4 or 5 times right out of the jump to start the game, or right out of the jump in the second half. And while I do think Mason Gillis probably gets the most minutes at the 4 in this game, I 100% believe that Painter is going to try to exploit that matchup on the offensive end early in this game. I would be shocked if he doesn't feed TKR in the post early in this game.
He might get the first touch of the game, like, honestly.
Yep.
They like going to Edey just to see what the defense is going to do, but it could be TKR early. And that is where, like, I hate saying this as like a Purdue fan and cover Purdue and all that, but like, one of the keys for me is truly getting UConn in some sort of foul trouble, whether it be Klingon or Caravan. Just trying to, they're not like, UConn isn't a crazy deep team. And so that's where it's one way I think that they could help themselves out. And TKR, like you said, I think you've been spot on with that of, they can kind of abuse that down low, and they will. And they've shown, usually it's the start of second halves where they just throw it to him 4 or 5 times in a row, and let him go to work and see what happens from there. But no, that is a very, very good call, because Caravan, like, I don't know if they need to double. I don't know if they're going to double TKR. I assume not. They'll probably just like shade Klingon over, and TKR just has to make good decisions. So that'll be a good call out there. I gotta say, so, and not that I'm not disagreeing with the chat. There's a lot of chats saying, Lawyer, it's a tough game for Lawyer. Whenever there's a consensus, this is a tough game for Lawyer, that's when Lawyer randomly has like 25 points. And I've been saying we're due for one of those games. And so I'm gonna be honest, it makes me feel a little bit better seeing the hey, lawyers, maybe struggles type stuff, and it's fair because right, this isn't a good matchup for him in terms of size and stuff, but Lawyer just seems to step up in those spots. His defense has been better. I do think it could be more Cam. I don't expect Colvin to get I just don't expect Colvin to get a ton of minutes unless he comes in and drills a few threes. But Cam has always been the guy. You get enough offense from him, but he's 6'7" and moves really well.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Cam get a decent amount of run, especially just with whatever they try to do defensively against Caravan if it's not working, and just the size and length that UConn's guards and wings have in general, then I think it's really logical for Cam to get a decent amount of run in this game because he's been really good defensively lately. When he does struggle, it tends to, honestly to be against smaller, quicker, shiftier guards. So I think this is a matchup that works well for him from that standpoint. But even with Miles, we've said kind of 100 times, if everybody else isn't if things aren't going well from a 3-point shooting standpoint, Miles is going to get inserted into the game, and Painter's going to see if he knocks a couple down quick. And if he does, and he's not getting exposed defensively, then there's a good chance he'd get some run. I don't necessarily see that in this matchup unless, they're just really hurting in terms of their outside shooting, but you never know. This to me is also one of those games. I think Miles does really, really well defensively now when we're playing against teams that like to kind of do a lot of ISO action, like to go one-on-one, or like to do some, just basic high pick and roll action. When you have teams like UConn that have a ton of different action and you have to have your head on a swivel, I think Miles still needs to get some more experience there, probably, just as from what we've seen in a few of the games with all the off-ball action. So I'm not positive if it's the greatest matchup for him to be in there from a defensive standpoint, but he's been much, much better of late. And if Purdue needs some shooting, I wouldn't be surprised at all if, he's that guy who kind of comes in and has that, wait, this guy got 15 in the national championship game? Like, where did he come from type of thing that we see all the time in these national title games.
Yeah, 100%. He'll not be shy to come in and shoot it, much like Lance Jones. And Lance Jones had a really good game, and he's, I think, the one guy we haven't talked about too much at this point. Is it as simple as Lance needs to be Lance? Lance needs to be good Lance?
We need good Lance, and we got good Lance. Like we said in the post-game show, in terms of like what their level is that they normally play at, what their baseline level is, Lance probably had the best game of anybody for Purdue on both ends of the floor. So I think we just need good Lance. Doesn't have to be great Lance. Doesn't have to be 20-point Lance. But we just need good Lance. We need an extreme defensive effort on that end. He needs to be a disruptor. He needs to be locked in from the jump because a lot of games, for whatever reason, it seems like it takes him a little bit to get really, really locked in defensively. And there's been a bunch of games where a guy's gotten some buckets, and then in that second half, Lance is just like, kind of shut him down, or even if he does get points, makes him shoot 25 to 30% in the second half. And he needs to be locked into that from the jump in this game to give Purdue their best chance. And offensively, just smart decisions, knock down open threes. And if there are transition opportunities, certainly take advantage of them. I don't know that he needs to be like attacking Klingon in the half court by any means. We saw what happened to Terrence Shannon when he tried to do that. So, but yeah, we need good Lance. And especially need good Lance defensively.
Yeah, and the defense may just be more important of having. I mean, he's the best perimeter defender on the team, probably by a decent bit, or a tidy close, and then a decent jump between the next person. And he's got to be locked in. I expect him to be. I was surprised. I admittedly didn't think it would be a great Lance Jones game, to be honest, for the Final Four, and I was just dead wrong on that. And hopefully he's able to carry it over. Like, we all know kind of the Lance story and stuff, and yeah, I'm thinking he's in the right spot to do what he needs to do. And Lance is, I mean, we could go on and on about how important he's been for this team this year. We didn't expect, like, really nobody expected this big of an impact, no matter how high you were on him. And most people were like, okay, backup, and me included, backup guard, plays 15 minutes, okay, solid. Not, there's a legit case Lance was the most important player in that game yesterday. Like, straight up,
Yeah.
and it was the best player. Like, that's crazy to think about coming into the season on what, June? What, he committed early June, I think, right?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy to get where he is. Just yeah,
Yeah.
good
And
Lance Jones is what we need.
I think as Purdue fans too, we need to realize Purdue comfortably won a Final Four game with Braden Smith having his worst game of the year and Zach Edey not having a great game, and really not even a good game, right? And Coach Painter said that in the press conference today, so nobody come at me for saying that. Quite a few turnovers and just needed to be some quicker decisions and differences in ball handling and passing from Zach. He still got his points, he still got his rebounds, but wasn't like a normal Zach Edey experience game that we're used to seeing. And Purdue still won that Final Four game to get the national championship by 13, I think was the end score, or 12, maybe. I don't remember. 13 points, but
13,
let's be honest. It was a 20-point win. Braden Smith called it a 20-point win in the press conference and then kind of was like, wait a second. But because, then Purdue just kind of ran out the shot clock a couple of times, basically, or heaved up a end of shot clock shot just as they were running timeout down there at the end. And North Carolina State hit a couple. So, I mean, comfortably, relatively easy getting to the championship game type of win with your two best players all year long not having good games. So I've not seen Zach Edey have two bad games. I've not seen Braden Smith have two bad games all year long. I expect both of them to come out and be at the top of their game. And I think Purdue looks like a different machine.
Yeah, 100%. There's a couple more things I want to hit on, but first we should give a shout out to Autograph. For anybody that doesn't know, the app that we partnered with that gives you all your Purdue content in one specific spot. So whether it be us, Boiler Upload, Black and Gold, or and just everybody that you kind of re-listen to already, certain tweets, things like that pop up, and you get rewarded. So you get rewarded for interacting with posts, with podcasts, with others. There's leaderboards. But you can also use those rewards to get potentially good tickets for really really cheap tickets for good games, or raffles for things like, I don't know, like a Fletcher Lawyer signed chair. I know Fletcher Lawyer just partnered with them about the chair and doing that. So different raffles, things like that. They've had, like, I think team signed ball, things like that for raffles. So really great app. We'll throw the QR code up right now. Use code BITS, BITS. That is BITS on Apple and Android. So yeah, completely free to use. Use code BITS, get rewarded for doing stuff you already do as a fan, and help cheer on, as you cheer on Purdue to hopefully a national championship game. We're across 43 minutes here. I don't think we'll go too much longer. The one thing I wanted to get to, or one of the things, and there's a couple comments, and we can get some more comments too if people throw them in chat as well. From Time Daily said, Edey needs to be quicker with his pass outs. He can't dribble the ball. The shooters need to relocate for the feed. So Edey had 5 turnovers in the game yesterday, and I'm not saying that Edey was great, and that none of the turnovers were his fault, but I think, and you saw Painter it was very brief comment, but he did take responsibility for it too. It was like a couple of those turnovers were just on the scheme. It wasn't like Edey kind of just had to do what he was supposed to do, and NC State was able to time up Diggs really well. Edey had no space to operate a couple times, and part of it is Edey needs to get better positioning. That is harder to do against Klingon, and it's also just depends on truly how the game's officiated. But then the shooters do have to create better space too. And so sometimes it is clearing out to the other side, and you basically give 50% of the court to Edey to work with. Other times it's pass, and it's like you pass from the wing and relocate to the corner as like the ball's in the air. So that way when Edey catches, can quickly put a dribble on the ground and it's a kick out. It's almost like a predetermined read in that sense of like, hey, I'm going to kick out to the shooter because I know this dig is coming. Now, maybe UConn doesn't dig down like NC State did and truly just leaves Klingon one-on-one and says, we're staying home with the shooters. If that's the case, this is where like the Edey is the best player in a generation has to show up. Like if he is getting one-on-one coverage against Klingon, I am not saying at all that it is an easy thing to do, but he's got to work hard. He's got to be able to bury guys. I don't know what the officiating will be like if they're able to kind of push him out legally or court, whatever if we think it's borderline fouls or whatever, if it's not being called, Edey has to adjust and stay down low and get positioning. And so that's what I wanted to call out is like, yes, Edey probably does need to be a little bit better on that 100%. Some of it's scheme though and spacing where it's that everybody else has to do their part as well. And
Oh, you froze up for a second, so I didn't know you quit. You froze up for a second. My Wi-Fi is not the greatest in this hotel. I just thought you were still talking, so I'm
bad.
sorry. No, you're all good. You're all good. Hey, Jeff Parks in the chat. Is Greg golfing again instead of working? Yes, that is the answer. He posted this beautiful picture of an awesome background on a sunny day as he was out on the grass, out in the fairway, playing golf with his buddy. And Joe and I were downstairs in the media room in the basement of the stadium, staring at a blank white wall as we worked on trimming up quotes and videos for all of you. So, yeah, Greg went golfing again, Jeff. But that's okay. Joe and I do what we do. This is why we're here. Cover all the national championship and Final Four material that you guys want to hear. Jeff did also ask, Joe, does Lance take Spencer matchup on D? I think we've kind of covered this already.
I don't think so, but like, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibilities. It truly comes down to how Painter and the coaching staff view like what's the hierarchy of UConn's offense, and that's what it's going to come down to. I wish I had that insight. I could have maybe asked it. I don't think they would have said that either at the press conference.
No,
I don't know if I've even been allowed to ask that. Might have just got kicked out on the spot. I don't know. My guess is no, but it is definitely possible. I'm sorry I can't give you more insight than that.
Yeah, they definitely wouldn't have answered that. Danny Green asked Zach Edey how he was going to attack Klingon, and Zach's like, I'm not going to answer that. Like in the press conference, like, no, like we've got a game plan, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Like, so I thought that was kind of a funny moment. All kinds of funny stuff. If you get a chance on the YouTube channel for the NCAA men's basketball, I don't know what the official name of the YouTube channel is. Go back and watch Painter's press conference today because there were all kinds of funny moments in that press conference and quite a few from different players as well. We cut some of those up from the breakout room player interviews and posted them to the Boilers in the Stands Twitter page. So go check those out. Take a look at those. That is part of what we try to bring to you, or some behind the scenes stuff in small snippets. So you don't have to watch an entire 20-minute interview session to get the things that you really want to hear. You were going to say something about Greg Goffin earlier. What was it you were going to say? I saw you getting ready to respond. I don't know.
I don't think I did.
Oh, okay. I thought you were getting ready to talk there, but
that's maybe
okay.
I was just going to say it's not the worst gig for us, but
right. No. We are very thankful to you, Greg, for getting us here. Very thankful.
But I also like golf.
But
it happens.
I'm more pissed off about your hotel. Like friggin' Joe emails, like there was a media room hotels. They sell out the hotel rooms. They didn't get enough hotel rooms for all media. Joe and I emailed basically the same time asking about hotel room reservations. I get an email back that says they're sold out. Joe gets an email back that said, we're sold out, but email back in the morning and check again in case somebody cancels. Joe emails back, gets in the media hotel room. I walk into that thing. It looks like the friggin' Bellagio. Beautiful hotel right next to the stadium, basically. And I'm stuck out here in Surprise, Arizona in a Days Inn where like I got to take a shower in 4 minutes or less or the hot water's gone. And I got to pay a $30 Uber ride every time that I come into the stadium. So that's more what I'm upset about, Joe. But that's okay. It wasn't your fault that they didn't save enough rooms for everybody who got credentialed for media.
What can I say? I don't know. It worked out for me. I wish it worked out for you too. I sent you the link as soon as, or I texted you about it as soon as I got it.
And they were gone. They were gone by then.
So,
yeah.
We had this comment from Scott White. Will Purdue need to have an absolute A game to bring home the Natty? And this is where I think my issue with how this game perceived is. It's like you kind of alluded to it, is I think there's a wider gap between these teams, or people are talking like there's a wider gap than there actually is. Like UConn is the favorite; they should be the favorite. I have no issues or qualms with that. That's what I have said with all along. But it's not. I don't think this is one of those like, Purdue's gonna, if Purdue wins, it's like this crazy big upset where they have to play perfect. There's a scenario where UConn, like if UConn comes out with their B game, like a B plus or an A minus game works for Purdue. Or if UConn just has a C plus game, like a B game for Purdue can win this. Well, coming out with an absolute A game make things a lot easier, and then keep them in the game. Even if UConn's playing near perfect game, then yeah, absolutely. If UConn's playing a perfect game, Purdue also has to match that. But you could say that really either way. You probably have thoughts, and I've probably said a decent bit of them, so I'll let you go.
No, I'm totally with you there. No, I don't think Purdue has to play perfect. People are acting like Lance, Fletch, Braden, TKR, Gillis, Edie are all going to have the best game of their life to win this game. No, we don't know how UConn's going to play. We don't know who's going to come out. They've got two guys that shoot from three really, really well, and they've got some other guys on the perimeter that struggle to shoot from three at different times. So are their threes going in? Because when their threes aren't going in, that kind of doesn't shut down, but that limits what they can do offensively. So just kind of have to see how the cookie crumbles, as they say, in terms of how they come out, how they look, how they're shooting early in this game. And UConn's got to play a good game too. And if UConn is playing at the top of their level, then yeah, Purdue's got to play a really, really good game too. But I don't think it's like, oh man, if one of those guys from Purdue isn't locked in, they've got no chance in this game at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like if UConn plays a not good game, Purdue can play a solid game and they can win this. But it comes back to, yes, if UConn plays an A+ game, Purdue has to as well. Jeff Parks says UConn got dog. My bad.
That's okay.
UConn got dog walked by Creighton at Creighton. I believe these teams are more even the mainstream media is portraying it. What I wanted to point out is like Creighton's a similar comp to Purdue. This drop big, down low. You have shooters surrounding. And so, yeah, like it can happen. UConn lost 3 games. It's not like they're unbeatable. We will throw this comment back up. I'm sorry, Kraig.
Oh, that's okay. I wasn't going to read it. I was just, but go ahead, read it now that you pulled it back up after you hit
Andrea
it.
Stevenson said, "Thank you, Kraig, for always being the calm voice of reason. Helps my nerves." LOL. Kraig, that's what you're here for. Well, and a lot of other stuff.
That's it?
No, a lot of other stuff. I don't know. I'm trying to do my best brags right here where you just kind of keep talking and then you get yourself in trouble.
All right, man. We are on 53 minutes of this. Is there anything else that we really need to dive into?
Do we talk about Painter versus Hurley really quick? Is there anything to talk about? They're both good coaches. They go about it in very different ways.
They're both very good coaches. Dan Hurley exemplifies the East Coast personality, mindset, mantra of just that persona in terms of how East Coast people like to present themselves, I guess, whatever you want to say. I'm losing I'm trying to get somewhere with this and I'm not going there, but I think he exemplifies the East Coast mindset and the East Coast way of conversing, right? I think Painter very much exemplifies like the Midwest nice. So I think it's great for the game. I think it's great for basketball that we have these two diametrically opposed, basically personalities that are going to be in this game. You guys as fans will get absolutely sick of Hurley ranting and Hurley yelling and being demonstrative on the sidelines. But at the end of the day, he's a really, really good coach. That's probably one of the top 5 coaches in the country now. If he wins the second NCAA championship, some could make the argument that he's the best coach in the country right now. But Matt Painter is also a really, really good coach who's won a lot of coaching awards. And personally, I think he's done one of his best coaching jobs this year in terms of just the adjustments that they've made in game. Some of the things that they've done to throw in as wrinkles or focus on from an offensive or defensive side, either one, in matchups where people from the outside thought, okay, like, how's Purdue going to handle this? And Painter had an answer every single time. So I think it's an even matchup. I don't put a coaching favorite on this between either of the two, unless you just want to say Hurley's been in this pressure moment before, so he knows about that. But once the ball tips off, right, like it's just basketball game.
Yeah, exactly. And Purdue's been in this pressure moment for what game is this? What game number is this for them? They are what is Purdue on the season? Whatever. It's game like 38 or something like that. Purdue's been in a pressure spot for 38 games this season. Ever since last year happened, they've been in a pressure spot. And so yeah, I know that there's the antics and all of that. And I'm not saying to overlook them because I think, people enjoy it. Like if it bothers you, that's fair. I totally get it with how Hurley coaches and stuff. But if you can't get past that, this is going to be this is going to be the best matchup in terms of two of the best coaches in the country, two of the best offensive minds in the country of getting sets, understanding where to attack teams, and then on the other side, understanding where to give up certain things. Like should be a chess match. And so if beyond just the antics and stuff, like if you get it looking at just that actual basketball, it's gonna be fun. I am pumped for this. So do we have anything else for our national championship preview? Did we think we were having a national Well,
I need to give it
before this season if we were having a national championship preview at the start, but like it's really here, a national championship preview.
Yeah, it's really here. I mean, obviously, I think that goal was in mind that Purdue could do that this year. Certainly from the players and coaches standpoint, that's been their goal the entire year. They were still very businesslike. The locker room after that game, everybody was still very businesslike. Zach Edey got asked in the press conference how it felt when he got back to the hotel room in terms of just soaking in the fact that he was playing in a national championship game. And he was like, I mean, it was nice, but that's not what we didn't set out to go to the national championship game at the beginning of the year. We set out to win the national championship. So I think they're locked in and I think they're ready to go. I do need to give a shout out to Brokerage Brewing Company. Once again, Brokerage Brewing Company, for those of you guys that are in West Lafayette or in Lafayette, are usually not open on Mondays. They are going to be open on Monday for you all. They are going to have the games on and some special things going on for that game. The sound will be on the TVs. If none of you guys have ever been to Brokerage Brewing Company before, my favorite brewery, West Lafayette's oldest brewery, but my favorite brewery in that entire area. Good craft beer and good TV watching in terms of being able to watch a game. One thing I would say, they do not have food. So eat before you go. You can Grubhub food in. You can buy food somewhere and take it in there, but they do not have food. It's only a craft brew destination. Game will be on there. Go out to Brokerage. They also have a food truck festival coming up on May 4th, which is always awesome. There's like 20 different food trucks in there. I always go to the pierogi truck. I love me some pierogies. Really looking forward to that as well. So that's about it, Joe. That's about all I got for this. I think like everybody else, I'm trying to recover from yesterday a little bit, and I feel like I'm dragging a little bit today on here. I know you didn't because you've been sick. You were a good boy. You went back to the hotel and got a good night's sleep. I did not. I was out as a man of the people, amongst the people last night at the Bruce show. I'm dragging a little bit.
Yeah, well, we gotta rest up. Tomorrow's gonna be so weird because it's like I'm gonna wake up and be like championship, and then it's like, well, I don't know, but I guess we do have this the pep rally watch party pregame at the two bars that are Carousel and the other one that Kraig said earlier, Bodega. So I mean, we if you haven't seen on Twitter, I mean, it was packed for the first one. Use this QR code, scan, sign up early, $20 per person. I think the link is somewhere in the comments as well. You can scroll back on YouTube and Facebook and get that. So yes, sign up for this. We'll be there for a bit. Braggs will be there for a while. Should be a great time hanging out with Purdue Boilermaker fans before the national championship game. Linda Jackson, also known as my mom, says, please don't forget to hit the like button. This show is great. So thanks, Mom, for doing that. And we would appreciate hitting the like button on the way out. It really just helps us a ton. As we got this our last preview show of the year. We have one more post-game show for sure. I have zero idea what time that'll be. It is very much dependent on the outcome of the game. If Purdue wins, hopefully when Purdue wins, I would truthfully just turn on the notification bell on YouTube right now. You can click it. There's a little bell. Click it. Say turn on notifications. That will notify you when we are as soon as we are live, because we'll put up a time. There's very small chance that we are actually live at whatever time we post. We just have to post a time because we're going to get all the content we can for you, as hopefully Purdue and Zach Edey and Gene Cady and Matt Painter and everybody's cutting down the nets, taking in the ceremony, the trophy, the confetti, all of it. So hit the notification bell. You will be notified as soon as we go live. I don't even know if we'll do it there, to be honest. We need to talk about that and figure out what's exactly is going to happen. But it is going to be a blast. National championship game is tomorrow. 25 hours away is where we're at. We do have our one and only Braggs popping in and says, am I spending our own money with this super chat, with the $2 super chat?
Yeah,
Yes.
you are, Greg. You're spending our own money, and there's probably some conversion loss there.
And
So
tax,
yeah.
and yeah,
It
it
What are you
happens.
doing, Greg? What are you doing?
So, yeah, we will be live at some point tomorrow. Who knows when? It's going to be a fun day. Excited. Final game.
He's
of
not
the
even. He's not
Yeah.
even golfing. He got done golfing in time to be on the show, and he's hanging out in a pool. Greg. All right, man. All right, let's wrap this puppy up.
We appreciate everybody
dragging out
tuning
the
in.
goodbye on.
Yeah. You can follow us on Twitter at Boilers and Stands. We'll have content out. We already have content out from the pressers. Kraig did a great job from that. I still have some stuff to upload. And yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Joe Jackson CBB. My Purdue UConn scouting report is out on Feed the Post. You can follow Kraig on Twitter at Kraig Bowers34 and join Boiler Diehards on Facebook, which is a group of 13, 14,000, a lot of people, Purdue fans, 12,000 plus people vetted for Purdue fans. Merch, which Kraig has on right there, you can buy. Boilers in the Stands. Maybe it's good luck merch. I don't know. You can find that though, our shop, and support us that way if you so desire. Yep, Teespring. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. We'll be live tomorrow after the national championship game, and hopefully the time goes by quickly until then.